Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi all, my name is Majda Anwar and welcome to today's session, MarTech and Customer Centricity, Making the Shift Happen. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. One, if you have a question, please feel free to ask in the chat window and we'll address that question during the Q&A portion of the webinar. And two, all registrants and attendees will receive both the recording and the slides within the next 24 hours. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to our Chief Strategy Officer and today's speaker, Debbie Qaqish. Debbie?
Well, hello, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. Wow, we have a small and intimate group today, which is going to allow us to have some fun. Right now, I see Andrew on. I see Angela. Jim, I am so glad that you joined us. I haven't talked to you in a long time. I see Cameron, Lori, and I also see Roger has joined us. So welcome, everybody. So what we will do in the next 30 minutes is I want to learn a little bit more about you. And I always like to take the opportunity to do what I call some peer sourcing. You know, anytime you get a group of marketers together, if we can learn from each other, I always think that that is a huge win. So we're going to do a little bit of that. And then, because today's topic is really about how to shift your marketing operations organization and your MarTech architecture to be customer-centric, we're going to begin by taking a look at a maturity model and the key characteristics of a customer-centric organization, because you need to understand where you are today before you decide where you need to go. We'll be taking a look at some really great pictures of a before and after MarTech stack. And then we're going to get down to the nitty gritty and talk about the four main stages of what it takes to shift from what I call A to C, or from anonymous to customer. And again, we have a small, intimate group today. So guys, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. Majda will be monitoring that. So this is really a great opportunity for us to really learn from each other. So I also see that Andrew has joined, and I think Joy, I don't know if you were in our first group that I called out, but I really do want to welcome everybody today. So I want to learn a little bit more about you. So I want everybody to open up your chat window. Everybody open up your chat window and just very quickly go in there and tell me if you work in a B2B organization, a B2C organization, or both. Andrew, what kind of organization do you have? Angela, do you work in B2B? Jim, Joy, Cameron, just put it into the chat window so we can see what kind of organization you guys work for. Cameron, Roger, Wayne. Welcome, Wayne. We're glad you could join us today. Okay. Matt, are you seeing things come into the chat window? I see lots of questions.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing them come in. We've got a mixture of B2B, B2B to C, B2B. So actually we have a mixture of folks who just do B2B or a combination of B2C and B2B.
Okay, fantastic. And now let me find out a little bit more about you. Guys, I have no idea where that came from. Tell me about your function. Do you work in a dedicated marketing ops organization? Or do you just work in marketing that doesn't have a dedicated marketing ops? Do you work in a dedicated sales ops organization? Or do you work in a combination of both? And as you guys are putting those answers into the chat window, let me just share with you guys that one of the coolest things that we're actually seeing right now in the marketing world is when organizations are beginning to organizationally combine the marketing and the sales operations. So what kind of answers are we getting there, Majda?
We are seeing, we've got some dedicated marketing ops, but a lot of these folks have a combination of both sales and marketing ops combined.
Again, I think that's one of the single most exciting things we're going to see. And I'll talk about that combined marketing and sales operations organization, and how in a lot of ways it makes that shift to customer centricity much, much easier. So thank you for sharing. So we have a good mixture of people with us today. So I want to do a poll question, and then I'll be done learning about you, and then we'll give you what you came for, and that is to learn how to make this shift. So Whitney, if you want to pull up the poll question, but I'd like to know from our group that's with us today, is a major initiative in 2019 re-architecting your MarTech stack based on a customer-centric approach? You know, I'm assuming that a lot of you have this on your radar since you actually came, 67%'s got yes, 33% has maybe. Now we're at more like a 50-50, okay? Now we're at a 60-40. Okay, let's take another few seconds, and then let's close the poll and show what happened. Go ahead, Whitney, and close it and show us our poll results. Okay, so 60% of you are definitely looking at re-architecting your MarTech stack in 2019 based on a customer-centric approach. 40% are saying maybe. I like that maybe because you're right. You know, it may not be actually in your plans yet, but it's one of those things that you can just see it actually coming down the road. So very, very, very good results. So I've got to go find my PowerPoint. So guys, give me just a minute, and that's not it. Sorry, guys. Oof. Whitney, do you want to pull up the PowerPoint? Whitney, you want to pull up the PowerPoint? Here we go. Okay, now let's go to slide, let's go for one more slide, one more. Okay, I want to start here because, you know, if you really think about it, everything that we know about doing it right came from Steve Jobs at Apple. And this quote is really the centerpiece for what we will be talking about today. And that is, you've got to start with the experience and work back toward the technology, not the other way around. And quite often we find that in marketing operations, you know, it's kind of has been turned around the other way, and there's good reasons for that. But as we work through this session today, we're going to keep this as a guiding principle, and we're actually going to keep it front and center, because this is how you adopt and this is how you operationalize customer centricity. So let me give you an example. Next slide, Whitney. So I think a picture paints 1,000 words. So let's go one more time, Whitney. So what we have here on the left is a typical kind of MarTech stack. So the first question I would have for you is that, and I want you guys to go into the chat room and I want you to answer this for me. How many of you actually have a picture of your MarTech stack? Just put yes or no in the chat room, because that's really the first step. You've got to have, on one piece of paper, you've got to have a way to envision your MarTech stack. You've got to have a way to talk about it. And if your MarTech stack looks something like this, meaning there's just a whole long list of products, then you're acting like your old company, because you have a product or a technology focus if your MarTech stack looks like this. Majda, how many people have a MarTech stack that they actually have in a graphical form right now?
We've got a handful of folks, and we even have some folks who are saying they have both the current state and a future state. So they're looking to roadmap.
Oh, you are going to be my star students today. So Whitney, let's click one more time and let's talk about that future state. So again, a picture paints 1,000 words. And what I love about where we are right now in the market for marketing and for marketing operations, you are in a position where you can take a substantial leadership position in your company. And what I mean by that is once your CEO says, okay, company, we're going to pivot toward customer centricity, the marketing operations team and marketing has a chance to lead that by how you treat your MarTech stack. And if you visualize your MarTech stack on the left and that's the way you talk about it, you know, people's eyes are going to glaze over and roll back in their heads. However, if you show up to meetings and you're talking about your MarTech stack the way it looks on the right, they're going to say, wow, they've got a whole picture of the customer there. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. You know, we've got this infinity loop in the middle. We've got customer acquisition on the right. We've got customer expansion on the left. We've got customer expansion on the right. And now I understand why marketing operations needs all that money to buy all that technology. Because as a company, we're moving to getting that one view of the customer. And here marketing and marketing operations is showing us how it is done. And again, imagine having this conversation with your CEO. Do you want to walk in with the picture on the left, or do you want to walk in with the picture on the right? You want to walk in with the picture on the right. So let's take a look at understanding where you are, and then we can get to what it is you need to make this shift. So this is a marketing operations maturity model that I put together about 2 years ago. You know, in my job, I'm very lucky as the Chief Strategy Officer. I get to talk to people endlessly and also work with my customers. So I've seen marketing operations mature across time, and this is an easy graphical representation. You know, this is what I call the efficient marketing operations. There's the effective, and then you get to be strategic once you begin to focus on the customer, and next generation is really about a completely different organizational structure. So to give you some detail to this marketing operations maturity, Whitney, let's go to the next chart. What I want to do is I want to take you through the 7 key characteristics. Now, once we're through with this, I'm going to ask each of you where you are. Are you in efficient, meaning it's what I call the technology land grab? Are you in effective? Order comes to the wild, wild west. Are you in the customer centric, which means everything you do is united through a customer focus? Or are you in next gen, meaning that you've actually restructured around a customer focus? So we're going to go through these fairly quickly. If you can hit the next button. So each of these have 7 characteristics. A lot of detail on the slide, but this is the kind of slide that you want to take with you into meetings to say, here's where we are, and here's a vision of where we need to be. The technology land grab, there's no dedicated MO function. Marketing is in silos. The lens is all about tech and point solutions. There's no customer journey. There's no customer insights. Very acquisition and funnel focused. And the actions are tactical, and really everything's done in little tiny silos. And that's kind of how marketing operations began. Let's go to effective, Whitney. This is what I call order comes to the wild, wild west. This is when you begin to have a dedicated marketing operations function. And again, that alone talks about the dedication that you have to this function. You find that marketing, all across marketing, all the parts are now becoming cohesive. And you find that the lens is now technology, data, and process, but it's still very point solution focused because you're serving a lot of different needs across the marketing organization. No customer journey, no customer insights. You are still acquisition focused and also tactical and tied to marketing operations. Okay? All right. Now, the big change, and this is the shift that you were all thinking about and looking for in 2019 or maybe in 2020, and take my word for it. If you work in a B2C or a B2B marketing organization, this is coming. It is just a matter of when. So the only thing that will unite everybody is having that customer focus. You have a dedicated MO, but guess what? That marketing operations function works across functions. It works with customer success. It works with sales. Any part of the organization that touches to or talks to the customer, you are now working with. That is a much broader role. The customer is the lens. It's what I call the golden thread across these functional integrations. Your job is to operationalize the customer journey. Your highest level job is to produce customer insights for all the functions to use. You are now focused on the entire customer journey, both acquisition and expansion. You are now strategic because you are tied to a company initiative. That is very different from the first two. And then the last one, Whitney. You know, the biggest difference between customer-centric and next-gen is that you have restructured. You've actually restructured. So I've worked with marketing ops that had customer success ops, sales ops, and marketing ops all together. And in that company, they owned every touch point with the customer, the message, who did what, how, when, as well as the technology. And that's the only way they could ensure a flawless experience. It's a dedicated, restructured function, very much cross-functional, very much the customer lens. They just don't operationalize the customer journey, they manage it and optimize it. And they provide customer insights across functions, acquisition and expansion focused, and again, strategic and tied to the company initiative. So it's a lot of words on this slide, but again, if you don't take away anything today, understanding where you are and where you need to go kind of gives you a sense for, now, am I traveling from Atlanta to Charlotte, or am I driving all the way to the West Coast? I mean, how much work is this going to be? So tell me where you are. Are you in the, oh yeah, and the CX means that it's this whole move toward customer centricity that's forcing the changes on these last two stages. So go to the chat and tell us, are you efficient, effective, customer centric, or next gen? And I can't wait to see what you have to say. So how are the responses coming in, Majda? Everybody, are you efficient? Are you effective? Jim, I don't know where you are, but where are you these days? Joy, what are you? Cameron? Oh, Naomi, welcome. I didn't see your name on here earlier. Roger, Wayne, where are you on this journey today? Majda, what kind of responses do we have?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of responses that are in between effective and customer-centric, it looks like.
Okay, great. And guys, I apologize, but my screen has gone blank. Oh, give me just a second here. Okay, well, just go to the next slide, Whitney. Okay. So first of all, I love that we have so many people that are actually, you know, getting over into that customer-centric stage, because this is the way where marketing gets a seat at the table. There's not a whole lot of other initiatives that are going on right now that are as important as marketing and marketing operations leading this pivot. So this is one of the biggest opportunities that I've ever seen, especially for the B2B marketer. So this next slide talks about the 4 steps to shift from A to C. Now, if you thought you were going to join the webinar and I was going to give you a deep architectural review of how you make that shift, yeah, well, you know, we do that. But, you know, in a 30-minute session, you know, it's best to kind of take a look at the other factors that you have to work with. And as you can see from this slide, step 1 is you have to ensure executive advocacy and council alignment. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I can't tell you how many marketing operations organizations I've worked with, and marketing organizations, they're pounding the table saying, we have to be customer centric, we have to be customer centric. And yet at the executive level at the company, they're still very happy being product centric. So the very first thing that you have to make sure of is that there is an executive mandate and extreme advocacy, because switching from a product tech-focused MarTech organization and stack to this customer-centric thing is a huge shift. And then I'll talk about the council in just a minute. So once you have ensured that you actually have that agreement from the executives, the next step is you have to operationalize the customer journey. And I have to tell you guys, as I was writing this, I was laughing so hard. I wasn't laughing at you, I promise. Here's what I was laughing about. So if you're in a marketing operations organization, there's probably other parts of marketing that take care of mapping the customer journey. It is a shame and a crime how few B2B companies have validated customer journey maps. And the problem that you have with that is you can't operationalize a bad process. So some of you may have to go find where somebody put the customer journeys, right? They may be sitting on a shelf someplace. And the other thing that you have to do, you have to validate those customer journeys with customers. I don't care what your salesperson thinks. I don't care what your VPs think. I don't care what your executives think. If somebody doesn't go out and have a conversation and validate those maps with the customer, you may be not, putting in place technology to support the right kind of process. So you have to find those and then once you have those validated customer journey maps, they become central to everything that you do. And think about those two views of a MarTech stack. You had one on the left, which had all the product stuff in it. You had one on the right that had the customer infinity loop in the middle, and it was all about everything that you do, every decision that you make, whether it's buying technology, managing technology, what resources you need, what headcount you need, what skills you need, how you work with other parts of the organization. It's all based on that one view of the customer. So step 2 is you've got to get the customer maps, and you also have to institute what I call a one voice of the customer council. So if your CEO and leadership is serious about the shift to customer centricity, and if they're serious, then you have a serious play here. One of the smartest things that you can do is put together a governance group or some kind of council across functions, customer service, customer support, product, everyone who reaches out and touches the customer in any way, and say, we're working to create this one view of the customer. We have a lot of that customer-facing technology. We'll be making big changes based on these customer journey maps, and you are our partner in this because guess what? We have to talk to you, okay? And then from there, you want to create a draft MarTech stack that's based on technology categories. Step 3 is you want to conduct an inventory, and just put me a note in the chat window how many people have already conducted technology inventories, both within marketing and also the other customer-facing parts of their organization. This is one of those things that people will try to short shrift, and you can't do that. Who's got what? What are they doing with it? All those kinds of things are going to become very, very important for you. And then once you do have that inventory, you want to ID the gaps, you want to ID the overlaps, and then from there, you want to create your future state MarTech stack with the specific technologies, because guess what? Your job will be to operationalize that stack. So it's very important to have cross-functional collaboration when you are doing that. And again, we've worked with companies that had 100 plus technologies just all over the place. And again, that makes sense because remember, the early days, it was a technology land grab for marketing, and there are point solutions everywhere you turn. Now, the last step really is to create your transition plan. And really what you want to do here is you want to consider, what are the resources you need, the skills, your capacity, and of course your budget. Oftentimes we work with organizations to help them go rationalize the budget as they're getting, planning done for the next year, or once a company decides to make this pivot, even if it's mid-year, you have to have ways to get this done. So that part is going to be very, very important for you. You need to determine your performance indicators. You need to put in place what I call a customer insights group. And if you don't take away anything from this webinar, but this one statement, listen to me very closely. The highest level value that you can bring to your organization besides revenue are customer insights served up in a way that people can make business decisions. And once you own all of this technology and you run these processes, you will have access to all of that. So putting that team together is going to be incredibly important. And then, of course, you need your KPIs. So that was a very fast look. Let's go to the next slide. And this is our last slide. And, we've got time for a few questions here. And again, I know it was a whirlwind tour, but in 30 minutes, we can only cover so much. But as you consider shifting your marketing organization and your MarTech stack to become customer-centric, you will need to think well beyond just what technology you need. You will need to have the customer at the center of every conversation in every piece of technology, and you will need to do it in a cross-collaborative network. So, Majda, do we have any questions?
Hey, Debbie, thanks so much. So, yeah, we have a couple of questions. But before we do that, I wanted to provide a special offer for everyone who's attended today. If you would like, we can schedule a 30-minute session with Debbie so that you can talk through your shift to customer centricity within marketing operations and within your full organization.
And this would be a big favor to me, because part of my job is talking to marketers about what they're doing. So I would love to chat with all of you.
Yep. And if you're interested, just let us know in the chat window and we will follow up with you after the webinar. All right, we've got a question from Wayne. And the question is, what are your thoughts on a centralized or decentralized org structure to accomplish the shift?
One of my favorite topics. I actually have a really good article, Wayne, that I wrote on, how to take a look at what should be centralized versus what should be decentralized. It really depends upon the needs of the organization. I've seen very large organizations lock it down at a central level, and I've seen, just the opposite. So we'll have your email, Wayne. Imagine if you remind me, I can send you a copy of that. But it really does depend upon what your needs are. If you're an organization that's maybe tight on budget at corporate and you feel like you have skill and capability in the field, and there's a reason for those decisions to be made closer to the field, you may want to keep some of those central activities like administration and optimization at central, while putting some of the program development out in the field. But on the other hand, I'm also, if you do that, I'm a big believer in coordinating what everybody's doing in the field and creating a center of excellence so you can share best practices. And I've seen governance committees or centers of excellence really do a great job. And that way, if you've got 13 field entities and they're all kind of off doing their own thing, you can capture those best practices, what worked, what didn't, and then you become more important to the organization. So just a few thoughts for you, Wayne. Time for one more question.
Yep. So I think our last question for today will be, do you think the shift to customer centricity through marketing ops is harder for B2B or B2C organizations?
B2B, and let me tell you why. B2C already has a customer focus. The first minute we had something that you could buy online, the very first minute we had e-commerce, B2C marketers became very, very, very close to their customers. B2B marketers don't know their customers in general. They don't talk to their customers. And with this transition, you will become the expert on the customer because you will have all the customer data. You will be producing the customer insights. So this is far harder for B2B to do than it is for B2C. Okay, well, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And again, I would appreciate you giving me 30 minutes. I'd love to find out more about what you're doing in your marketing ops, your marketing, and in your MarTech stacks as you take a look at embracing customer centricity in 2019. Thanks, and everyone have a great holiday.